All right, let's jump right in. Today, we're talking about our digital lives. You know, we're all more connected than ever before, right? But that connection, it comes with some really complex questions. Questions about who's in control, what community really means, and whether this whole thing is even fair. And to see just how intense it can get, well, you just have to look at what happens when someone becomes, quite literally, the most followed person on the planet.
So, that quote, that's from Selena Gomez. And she's talking about the moment she became the most followed person on Instagram. You'd think that would be this amazing celebration, right? But for her, it was just overwhelming, all-consuming. She even said it was like being plugged into a machine that you just can't switch off. An addiction.
And you know, her experience, even on that massive scale, it really hits on a question that a lot of us feel in our own lives. I mean, think about it. We've got the entire world in our pockets, right? Endless videos, constant messages from friends. So, why does being so connected feel so isolating sometimes? It's a huge question, and to even start to answer it, we've got to take a step back and figure out what we're actually talking about here.
Okay, first up, our lives are screens. Now, when I say the word technology, what pops into your head? Probably your phone, right? A laptop? Something new with a chip inside? But if we really want to get a handle on its impact, we have to think way, way bigger than that.
Check out this definition. Technology is the application of science to solve the problems of daily life. So it's not just about gadgets. It's about any tool we use to solve a problem. Which means, get this, a pencil and paper? That's technology. Seriously. It's using the science of graphite and wood to solve the problem of, how do I write this down? It kind of blows your mind a little bit, right? It really changes how you look at things.
And that's the key thing to realize. Technology isn't new. It has always been with us, shaping everything about how we live. The first stone tools, they totally changed how early humans could survive. The abacus, invented way back in 2400 BCE, it revolutionized math. So everything that's happening now with our phones and the internet, it's just the latest chapter in a really, really long story.
But, and this is a big but, the pace of that story has just gone into overdrive. I mean, look at how deep this goes. Back in 2012, about 44% of cell phone owners slept with their phone right by their bed. Okay, but just 3 years later, that number jumped to 71%. That's insane. We literally can't put them down, even when we're unconscious. And of course, there's a trade-off. About 1 in 5 people say their phone makes it way harder to switch off from work. And we've all felt this one, right? It makes it harder to just give someone your undivided attention.
Okay, so that feeling of being always on is something a lot of us can relate to. But it's only half the story. Because when you zoom out from our personal experience and look at the bigger picture, you see that access to all this technology and the power that comes with it is not spread out evenly at all. In fact, it's creating a huge gap, something we call a widening digital divide.
So what is the digital divide? Well, it's pretty much what it sounds like. It's the uneven access to technology. But the key thing is that this gap isn't random. It tends to fall along existing lines of inequality. Things like race, class, and even geography, like the difference between a big city and a rural town. So let's dig into the actual numbers here. If we look at who owns a traditional computer, a desktop or a laptop, the gap is pretty stark. About 80% of white adults have one. But for Black and Hispanic adults, that number drops to 60%. That's a huge 20-point difference. But, and this is important, that's not the whole story.
Because when you look at how people get online, things get even more interesting. It turns out that a large number of people are smartphone-only internet users, meaning their phone is their only way to get online. And about a quarter of Black and Hispanic adults fall into this group. That's a much higher rate than for white adults.
And this is really the core of the issue. The digital divide isn't just about if you can get online, it's about the quality of that connection. I mean, think about it for a second. Have you ever tried to write a cover letter or fill out a complicated job application on your phone? It's a nightmare. A phone is amazing for watching videos or scrolling through social media, but for the stuff that can really change your life, like education or employment, it's a whole different ballgame. It's a divide between entertainment and true empowerment.
So this leads us to a really big question. If this technology has so much power to shape our lives, well, who's shaping the technology itself? Who's really in control here?
Let me give you a perfect and probably very familiar example of this control. It's called planned obsolescence. We've all felt it, right? Your phone is working just fine, and then suddenly, right around when the new one comes out, it starts to feel sluggish and slow. Well, it turns out this wasn't just in our heads. Apple was caught intentionally slowing down older iPhones with their software updates, supposedly to deal with battery issues. Users felt frustrated, pushed to upgrade, and it all ended in a massive class action lawsuit where Apple had to pay out $500 million. It's a wild story that shows how the tools we depend on are sometimes designed to break.
And this idea of control, it goes way beyond just our phones. Look at this chart. This is who controls the media in the US. And what it shows is that just 5 companies, 5, control 90% of everything we see and hear. We're talking TV, movies, news, books, the whole shebang. That is an unbelievable amount of power concentrated in just a few hands.
So how does that power work in practice? Well, there's a term for it: gatekeeping. Think of it like this. There are thousands of stories out there that could be told. These 5 companies are the gatekeepers. They decide which stories get through the gate and reach the public. They decide whose voices get a microphone and whose don't. In a very real way, they are the ones shaping our entire national conversation and what we think of as reality itself.
All right, so these issues of access and control aren't just an American thing. They're happening all over the world. So for this last part, let's zoom out one more time and take a look at how technology is playing out across the globe.
You know, for a long time, there was this really beautiful, optimistic dream. People called it the global village. The idea was that the internet would just dissolve all the borders, right? It would let ideas flow freely and connect every single one of us into one big human family.
But the reality turned out to be a lot messier, because instead of just being a tool for connection, technology has also become an incredibly powerful tool for control. You see governments all over the world, like in China, blocking terms like human rights, or in Myanmar, where the military literally shut down Facebook and Twitter during a coup to silence dissent. So much for a free exchange of ideas. It turns out the global village has some very high walls with some very powerful gatekeepers.
But again, it's not all doom and gloom. Control isn't the entire picture. I want you to think about this number for a second. 4 billion. That's how many people around the world have a mobile phone. To put that in perspective, that's more than twice the number of people who have a bank account. And for a huge number of those people, that phone represents the flip side of this story. It represents empowerment. Take a place like sub-Saharan Africa. For people there, a simple mobile phone can be absolutely revolutionary. A fisherman can check the prices at different markets before he even sets out, making sure he gets the best deal. A farmer can use mobile banking to send and receive money securely without ever needing to go to a physical bank. For them, it's not just a phone, it's a lifeline. It's a tool for economic empowerment.
So when you put all of these pieces together, the personal connection, the digital divide, the corporate control, the global empowerment, you end up at this really deep, powerful idea. It's called the social construction of reality. And what it means is that our reality isn't just out there, waiting for us to find it. It's something that we are constantly building, day by day. And we build it out of the messages and the symbols we get from the world around us. And today, the main architects of that reality are technology and media. They're handing us the building blocks we use to understand everything. And that leaves us right here with this final thought. Technology isn't just a set of tools we pick up and put down anymore. It's the environment we live in. It's the water we swim in. It's shaping our friendships, our jobs, and our fundamental sense of what is real. It is, right now, writing the story of our future. So the only question left to ask is, what role are you going to play in writing it?